Hey guys, it's Justin Schitt with Chaotic Real Estate Solutions, and I want to talk about a big subject that's going around right now. That is the upcoming election. Guys, we are less than a week away from knowing who is going to be the next president. So I want to talk about the impact that it could have on the real estate market. So let's just go ahead and jump into it. Trump versus Harris. With the election coming up, I think housing market is probably at the top list of priorities that a lot of voters are having in mind when it comes to picking the next president. With nearly half of all renter households spending over 30% of their income on rents, it's understandable why. According to national polls, the average American spends over 38% of their income on mortgage payments as well. Guys, this is crazy. So I've been doing some research, and according to the National Association of Home Builders, over 40% of the builder's cost is due to government regulation as well. So this is why our housing and apartment complexes cost so much to build, is because government regulation is coming up with 40% of that cost. With over 650,000 homeless people in the United States right now, we're at an all-time high. So there's a lot of things that are currently impacting the real estate market. So what does this mean with the next president in mind? Let's talk about it. A lot of you may not know this, but there's actually currently over 3 million houses in a shortage right now in the United States. So that means we actually are in a deficit of over 3 million homes needed to help with the current shortage of homes in the United States. So I want to talk about Trump's points first, and then we'll go to Harris. Trump is wanting to help with deregulating the government. So what he's wanting to do is help with reducing zoning regulations, take some of the red tape off of, allowing developers able to build faster and build cheaper, basically giving developers more incentives to build. That way they will build more homes, which will hopefully help bring down the need of housing by building more. Another thing he's want to do is actually add tax incentives for real estate investors. Now what this would mean would be reducing taxes for big developers and promote developmental projects by basically decreasing the tax liability of these developers so they'll build more homes, and other projects like apartment complexes, infrastructure in the neighborhoods, stuff like that. So by offering these tax breaks and these deregulations, it should help developers to be able to build more homes, which in turn would be able to save the consumer more money because there'll be more homes to choose from, which will in turn bring housing down just a little bit. Another thing he's wanting to do is he's wanting to reallocate funding to build homes or apartment complex or other developments on actual government land. He's wanting to actually take a lot of the federal government's properties and sell it to developers so they'll build on it, which in turn again will produce more homes. Another thing he's wanting to do is actually allocate funding to help homeless veterans get into homes. A large percentage of the population of veterans is actually homeless, and by combating that by building shelters or giving incentives, programs, stuff like that to help with homeless veterans would then in turn get a lot of these homeless people off the streets. All right guys, moving on to Harris. I want to talk about a couple bullet points that she has proposed. Now, we don't know how these policies are going to affect long-term in the United States, but I will go through them with you guys. One of the things that she has proposed is a plan to build 3 million new homes across the United States over the next 4 years by offering tax incentives for builders. Now, this is similar to Trump's plan, so we don't know how this is going to react versus each president's plan exactly and how the policy is going to work out, but we'll have to keep an eye on that. She's also proposed a $25,000 down payment assistance program for new home buyers. So this is a very positive thing. We don't know how it's going to trickle down into the real estate market and stuff like that, but it could help a lot of first-time home buyers. Another thing that she has proposed is restrictions on landlords to prevent rent increases, limit their tax breaks, and make it harder for landlord evictions. Now, I'm not a personal fan of this, but it could be good for some consumers. For investors, not so much, and we'll talk about this later. All these policies have pros and cons to them, so it depends on what side of the fence you are on as if this is going to be a good thing or a bad thing. For investors, not such a good thing, but for a consumer, some of these things could be beneficial. All right, guys, so in conclusion, both of the candidates that we have for president right now do have a lot of plans and policies that they're wanting to enact to combat the housing issues that we're facing today. Both have good intentions, I do believe that. And some of these policies will help with affordable housing and possibly will help with the shortage that we are currently facing in the real estate market. But some of these policies could definitely affect and trickle down into hurting some consumers or investors. So Trump and Kamala both are wanting to give huge tax breaks to builders to build more homes. Okay, that's a really good thing. We need more housing. The only issue with that is if we build too fast or put too many houses out in too short of a time, it could definitely hurt home prices And with the inflation so high right now over the last 4 years where people have bought houses, they could be upside down on their houses because it could bring the values down. This is something that a lot of people are not thinking about. Yes, it could help with affordable housing, but people that have recently bought houses, they might actually be in upside down or negative equity from these policies being enacted. So you could see more pre-foreclosures and stuff like that where people cannot refinance their homes. So keep that in mind. Some of these things like rent increases and stuff like that, they do need to be combated, okay? Landlords have been raising rent over the last couple of years, and it has made it very tough for renters to get out of their current situations. A lot of people are looking to stop renting and buy houses. And I absolutely agree. The American dream should be to own a house, not rent until you're dead. So I highly, highly agree with limiting or capping rent rate increases. Now, what I do not agree with though is not being able to evict tenants that do not pay or are causing problems in your rental properties. This is a huge problem for me because in current years, I've had to evict several tenants that did not pay or have destroyed my homes, or other problems that like not actually being able to do the things that they're supposed to be doing in my property. Okay, so guys, I did want to mention that I do not think most of these policies are going to make it all the way through and get actually passed as law, but there is some things that you should be aware of, and you need to look at both sides of the book. Okay, so some of these things could hurt some people in other ways. On the flip side of the coin, it could hurt investors or consumers in another way. So there is a lot of pros and cons to all these policies. So you just got to keep in mind which ones are going to be right for you and make the best decision. I hope everybody goes out and votes this year. We really need to have everybody in full force to pick the best president that is going to lead us over the next 4 years. And one last recap for my real estate investors. If you're anything like me, you're flipping a lot of houses, you might own a lot of rentals and stuff like that, it does not matter who the president is. Real estate goes through cycles every year. Some years are really great, some years are not so great. All you have to do is stay consistent, keep doing what you're doing, and make sure that you are looking out for you. So make sure that whatever you do, you're doing it with the consistency and the mindset to get you through. Do not lose hope. Keep doing what you're doing. See you on the flip side.